Hi everyone and welcome to Game 2 of the quarter-final matchup between Raoul Zimmerman playing Jund and Richard Plummer playing Rug Delver. This is the Star City Games Invitational Qualifier Legacy event held at Doncaster. What do you think we're going to be seeing from each player's sideboards here?
I'm not sure really what Jund brings in. I'm guessing, because they can't really sideboard in Perish, which is the general answer you find for Nimble Mongoose and Tamagotchi, but that kind of kills his own guys.
Yeah.
So maybe some more Abrupt Decays if he's not playing 4 mains, more removal.
Could we see something like Diabolic Edict maybe?
Maybe some Edicts, that could be alright, yeah. I doubt we'll see Innocent Blood, but an Edict we can see. Perhaps, maybe even Engineer play, like he could name Mongoose with that, or he could even name Delver. Human? Is it Delver? Human Wizard, is it?
Yeah. Do you think he might have some graveyard hate as well, maybe for the Rug Delver?
Could bring in some relics or some surgicals or something. I mean, he's got the Death Rights main deck, so that's generally what the Jund decks usually use.
I noticed Raoul going using his fetch land straight away there, respecting the power of Stifle and not waiting round for it.
You don't want to generally let someone free roll a 1 blue land destruction spell on you, especially in a tempo deck as potent as Rug Delver.
Okay.
I think Rich is going to have brought in some submerges for sure. Anyway, he's probably taking out Force of Will. That's what I'd do, but I'm not sure that's what you should do against the Jund deck. I've not really played the matchup that much. It feels like hemming yourself is really bad.
I mean, the Jund deck's going to want to do the hemming anyway, isn't it?
I mean, I don't know whether Richard's got it, but Divert would seem quite good in this matchup.
It would seem pretty good. The other thing maybe from Raoul, I was thinking, does he hate board out his Dark Confidence in this match? But what sort of cards would you be looking to take out in Raoul's place?
I'm not entirely... he maybe takes out some of the targeted removal due to... Like, Tamagotchi's quite big, so he's kind of hard to hit with the targeted removal. Nimble Mongoose has got Shroud. I don't know whether he's got extra Grim Lava Monsters in the board, or he's even playing Grim Lava Monsters, but that's a good way of kind of hedging against having to kill the Delver as well.
Yeah. Do you think that maybe do you think he's going to keep his Bloodbraid Elves in? I mean, it feels a bit 4 against Richard's deck. But
there's a sideboard card, I think.
Yeah, that's Life from the Loam, yeah.
Has to go against Richard's tempo, blow up all your lands draw, and he can maybe waste lock Richard. It's one of the Rug Delver's one of the decks in the format where its land count is so low it's worth wastelanding at every opportunity. Yeah,
because generally Rug Delver doesn't play any basics and it only plays, what, 6 lands which tap for mana, maybe
6
7?
or 7.
Yeah.
What you don't want to do though is run a wasteland into a Stifle, because that feels really bad as well.
Does it feel worse than running a fetch into Stifle?
Depends what turn of the game it is, I think.
Yeah, especially when you can Life from the Loam everything back, it feels like eventually you're going to win that war.
Yeah, I definitely think the Jund deck is the control deck in this matchup.
Sylvan Library there from Raoul, that's huge if that resolves, and it does. So Richard giving the thumbs up there, I don't think that was a thumbs up, that's a good thing for me.
Yeah, I doubt he's excited to see that card.
I think most Jund decks play 1 main deck, don't they? Just as
perhaps a second in the board, yeah. I think that's correct. I mean, you don't even have to pay life for it to be a powerful effect.
I mean, at this point, I'd say that Raoul's heavily ahead here, and just because Richard has no clock on the board either at this point, and that library's just going to find Raoul everything he wants, pretty much.
Yep. And with that life from the Loam, he can just dredge away the cards he doesn't.
Yeah. And Richard wastelanding here, but that's going to have next to no effect on how this game goes.
It's quite strange that Richard's not made a play yet. I'm going to assume that he's got a lot of permission or a lot of interactive cards in his hand, and Raoul's not really made a creature for him to interact with yet. So
yeah, so the guess is his hand is probably full of things like Submerge. He might have like a Daze in hand as well that would have been useless last turn.
Yeah.
When Raoul's just playing round his interaction quite well here, and he's never going to run out of gas, put it that way.
No, Sylvan Library is a very powerful effect. It also is a very confusing effect sometimes. Yeah. I mean, I hope Raoul hasn't boarded in shares of Mephistopheles. It is a good card versus Rug Delver, but I don't really want to have to try and explain that interaction.
Go on. That's a no. That is a head shake from Lee there. we'll have to wait and see if we get it on camera. Then I'm just going to leave it all to you.
I'm pretty sure I know what goes on, but I'm not 100%. I wouldn't like to put commentary on it anyway.
Okay, fair enough for the moment. Raoul rubbing it in at this point, putting Deathrite Shaman on the board as well. So
we may just see Deathrite scroll his way to victory here.
Yeah. Woo.
That fetch land's very powerful with the library as well, because it's essentially the same interaction as Sensor's Divining Top.
Yep.
I mean, once that library's on the table, I don't think there's a way that Richard can interact with it.
No, I don't think he's brought in Naturalize or anything along those lines.
I mean, if he was playing the Bug Delver list, he'd have Abrupt Decay, but that's not a way for him to really interact with it, because he doesn't have the black or the card in his deck.
So he does have a source of red at this point, so let's see what he can do with it.
See if he lights up the Deathrite Shaman.
It seems to be a pretty decent play if he can do it at this point.
He's got to be considering with his hand. I don't know how much. That's a fort, but
yeah. And a Nimble Mongoose, so he's got the creature he wants in play. It's just a little bit late at this point.
If he'd have made that Mongoose on turn 1, he'd be in a lot better shape, because then he can just 1-for-1 him, and then Goose becomes a 3/3, and then Jund really only has blocking, which you can interfere with, or Liliana to deal with it.
Yep. I'm wondering if Raoul has access to anything like Punishing Fire in his sideboard, but I don't think so. We haven't seen any Groves, so we're not going to see. He might have Red Elemental Blast. That's one thing I'm potentially thinking.
Yeah, a lot of the Jund decks do have Rebs. You don't necessarily bring it in against Rug Delver, that many of them, because it's putting a card that's not always useful in your deck full of always useful cards.
Yeah.
And it's a very bad cascade.
It is a pretty terrible cascade unless your opponent has exactly a Delver of Secrets in play.
I mean, Raoul may have blooded out the Bloodbraid Elves, and then it becomes like a better sideboard option, but I'm not sure that's what you want to do in this matchup.
Yep. Now that Richard's tapped out, Raoul's gone for the double sacrifice on the fetch land, so he's making very sure to stay away from Stifle at this point.
He's doing a pretty good job at advertising Mr. John Avon's artwork though, with his basics.
Yeah, I believe they're the unhinged basic lands, aren't they?
Yeah, they're beautiful.
Yeah, I'm a pretty big fan of those. He's gone to 4 mana, so 3. This feels like potentially Liliana. Yep, there she is.
Yeah, Raoul's been playing round days the entire match. I mean, it takes a lot of discipline to do so when it feels like your opponent's like pants are down, so to speak.
Yeah. I mean, Richard's draw has kind of helped Raoul in that respect, because Richard didn't put him on any sort of clock, so therefore Raoul's had the time to play around days.
Yeah, that's where the weakness of days. If you don't actually have that pressure, then it's not the best.
Yeah, and
especially
again,
not when your opponent's got life from the loam.
Yeah, again, Wasteland there's just not doing much for Richard, and it just feels at this point like he's using all his resources to try and stop Raoul just burying him.
Yeah, trying to stop him playing multiple spells a turn, which he can't come back from. I mean, there's not much you can do with 4 mana unless he's sideboarded in some Jaces. I don't know what his sideboard is, to be honest. Yeah. But that library's just going to end this game. I think that's the death knell. Is him having that library all this time.
Yeah. Although Richard still does have a decent number of cards in hand. I think he's got, looks like 3 or 4 cards in hand there, so he can potentially still interact to a point, but the problem with the Rug Delver deck tends to be there's no sort of natural card advantage in the deck, is there?
It struggles to get card advantage and doesn't mulligan that well either.
And that is a really big Tarmogoyf that's just hit the table.
So we've got to assume that Richard probably has a Daze in his hand, doesn't have Force of Will, and doesn't have a Tarmogoyf currently, because he's just not making any plays. So you have to, maybe he's got Submerges, that's what I'd put him on, and more burn. Because obviously you can't burn the Tarmogoyf out.
Yep.
And if he had cantrips and things, he would have cast them trying to find some more.
Now, of course, Raoul's got to be careful with that fetch land of his that he's got there, because if he cracks that, he leaves himself open to Submerge.
Yeah, he's also still got a player on Stifle as well. That could be another card in Richard's hand.
Yep, Raoul taking a sizable chunk out of Richard's life total there. Is this Deathrite Shaman okay?
It's probably not okay, but it may resolve.
And it does resolve, so I believe I'm with you at this point. I think Richard's got a lot of sort of situational counter spells, or situational cards in his hand that really Raoul has pretty much all the time in the world to deal with here. And also the fact is here that Raoul could actually, if he felt like it, he could draw like one extra card off that library because the Deathrite's active.
I'm not sure that's what I'd do. I don't want to make any of my opponents burn live.
Yeah,
like that's how Richard's going to win this game. If he's got any chance, he's going to point burn at his dome again.
Yep.
And hopefully get there. What you probably won't see, unless he's already checked with the library and has some lands on top of his head, is Raoul make a Dark Confident.
Yeah.
After last game, he may feel a bit tilted by Dark Confident.
And yep, we've got scroll action.
Deathrite Shaman being another card on top of another card on top of another card. I mean, he plays so much like a Planeswalker. It's untrue. You
get one activation a turn, and it does something generally good for you. Yep, Raoul goes, I'll have that card please, and attack with the Tarmogoyf. That's a submerge from Richard, so
I think he was waiting on the submerge, hoping to shuffle it away.
Yep. Tarmogoyf goes on top of Raoul's library. 2 mana from Raoul. Are we going to see another Tarmogoyf here? 3 mana. Oh no, it is 2 mana. Yep, another Tarmogoyf from Raoul. And a daze. Pay for it.
He's probably got a second daze here.
Yep.
Just to try and make him shuffle away, but he does pay with it with the Deathrite. Maybe a third daze.
I think Raoul's playing really well. Yeah, and as we were discussing, he's got like, and Raoul just lets it go. And he did have the many situational counter spells in his hand at that point, and Raoul's just played round them all.
If that was his starting hand, I'm not sure I would have kept from Richard. I mean, I know Rug doesn't like mulliganing, but a hand with that many situational counters and no 1-drop is pretty rough. I mean, if he draws a 1-drop in the first 2 turns, he's probably golden to win this game.
Spell Snare there from Richard on Tarmogoyf. Oh, Red Elemental Blast back from Raoul.
It's interesting to see Richard playing Spell Snare, actually. A lot of the lists have moved away from it.
And Raoul's going to pierce it. Oh heck, we've got a heck of a stack going on here. Yeah, we've got to, let's get this reorganised, guys. This is one of the things, always make sure you represent the stack correctly in Legacy, because this is what the stack says at the moment.
And now a Deathrite Shaman activation is probably going to go on top of that as well.
Well, he has to sack another land if he wants to activate the Deathrite Shaman as well. Complex board states.
So I don't think he can activate the Deathrite Shaman if he wants to play for the spell place and resolve his Tarmogoyf.
Yeah.
It's a very, like, if this play works out how Richard wants it to, he may even be back in the game, because there'll be no Tarmogoyf and no Deathrite Shaman, but unfortunately there will still be a Sylvan library.
Yeah.
It's not the library that's on the restricted list in Vintage, but however, it is quite powerful.
Yeah. Well, Raoul's going to activate Deathrite Shaman. Yep, for mana.
I mean, at least Raoul at this point probably doesn't have to worry about daze,
yeah.
Because if he daze in response to the fetch land as well, he's in a lot of, like, that Tarmogoyf probably isn't resolving.
Yeah. And there we go, he gets a bad lands and he pays for the spell pierce. Everything resolves, Tarmogoyf is in play.
Do you remember when Tarmogoyf first arrived in Future Sight, was it?
It was Future Sight.
And people thought he was terrible.
Yep.
And then other people who didn't think he was terrible picked up quite a lot of them.
Yeah.
And now he's worth, what, $70?
Somewhere in that, I think it might even be more. But everyone knows he's a blue card anyway.
He is a blue
for the
card.
most part.
It was, if you guys have been playing standard probably more than any other format lately, and this was the original problem of a colourless and green casting cost efficient monster. The other one in standard now, Thragtusk.
Yep.
He is also a blue card.
And Ralph finishes off Richard with a lightning bolt there, so we are going to move into game 3.